Let's start off with Nigeria, where organized labor is divided over what the new minimum wage should be. The lack of unanimity was evident at the public hearing organized by the Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage across 4 of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. For instance, just to give you an idea of what the breakdown is like, the Southwest, according to NLC, proposed about 794,000 naira. That's according to the NLC in the Southwest, while the TUC is proposing 497,000 naira. In the Southeast, the NLC proposed 540,000 naira, while the TUC is proposing 447,000 naira. In the South-South, of course, the minimum wage being proposed there is about 850,000 naira. While, of course, in the Northwest, 485,000 naira is being proposed. Now, joining me in the studio at this time to make sense of this is News Central's Abdulateef. Thank you for your time. And yes, interesting times again, you would say in Nigeria. But let's start off with this. Why does it appear like the demands of the TUC and the NLC differ this time around?
Okay, well, generally what is probably the same or what is similar in the demands of NLC and TUC is the need for an increased minimum wage. What we have now is not sustainable considering the cost of living, the cost of livelihood, and other economic indices. For instance, when you look at the rising inflation, you cannot use salaries that were considered minimum wages 4 years ago to be the same at the moment. So yes, it's understandable. And again, when you look at the fact that some states are proposing some amount less than some other states, it's clear that the cost of living is not exactly the same in Borno as it is in Bayelsa, for example. The cost of living in Lagos State is not the same as it is in Nasarawa State. So some regional dynamics, some economic indices may be factored into some of these considerations.
But I mean, I'm still going to stay with the fact that we know that on fronts like this, the TUC and the NLC usually speak, in one voice. But it looks like this time around they seem split. Let's take you back a bit to when the, of course, proposed strike back then did happen, the protest. It was just the NLC, the TUC backed out. What do you think is happening between their one time, what I call it, solidarity, in terms of doing things together? It seems like both of them this time around, both organizations this time around run different agendas. What could be responsible for that?
I think it has to do with the government's handling of labor union members. Now, most times when you go into...
Could it be a strategy of the government to break their, will I call it, grip or stronghold as a united force?
It's a possible strategy because, you see, when you go into negotiations as a team, it is easier for you to get a bigger or a better bargain. But in trying to resolve the issues, because if you look at the amounts that the labor unions were proposing, they look wonderful, they look nice in the eyes of every worker, but I don't think the amounts they are requesting for are sustainable, they are reasonable. Therefore, the government could crack, the union by trying to speak to members or executives that wield some influence, such that they are able to make them understand the position of government and therefore help them, subpedal, from what their original position. So in negotiations, sometimes, if you're unable to appeal to the entire team, you should be able to speak to those who make decisions, who influence decisions, within the team. So I think it is part of the government's way of trying to get things resolved by, trying to win part of the labor unions, to their own side.
All right, so now let's look at some of the breakdowns when it comes to the proposals. We know that in the Southwest, for instance, the Nigeria Labour Congress is proposing about 794,000 naira, while the TUC, the Trade Union Congress, is proposing about 497,000 naira. I mean, you look at this, what I call it, the difference here, you would want to say it's pretty much alarming. Now, my question is, if you look across board, compared to what was being demanded much earlier, I mean, was it last year, the initial negotiations, and previous years we had moved from 30,000 and all of that. How sustainable or achievable are these demands? We are looking at close to 500,000, if not more than 1 million, with these demands. And you would want to ask, how many state governments can actually achieve this or do this? Well, what do you make of their demands? So how realistic?
So the first thing I would want to say is, are we paying reasonably enough to attract and retain the quality of labor, labor that we need to industrialize Nigeria? If you are paying workers peanuts in Nigeria, and they know, I mean, it's a global village that we live in, at the moment. If they know that their colleagues elsewhere earn probably 3 times or 10 times what they earn, they have absolutely no reason to remain in Nigeria, because there's no reward for you to live on peanuts. Therefore, they may be, considering wages, minimum wages across the world, or wages that are reasonable enough for anybody to live on. However, I don't have a problem with you paying probably 1 million or 500,000 to workers as minimum wage, but the problem will be, how productive is this sector? How much impact does the labor union or the labor we have at the moment impact on, the growth, the development of our economy? So you must earn your pay. It's not enough to just wield the placards and make noise and say you demand better pay and all that. You have to be very productive. You have to be competitive in your skills, and you have to be impactful on the economy for you to earn what you want to earn. Again, there is no amount that is too much for you to request for. It is now up to the government to look at what it earns and see what is reasonable for it to pay workers. Again, workers may be asking for this much because those at the helms of affairs are earning monies that are mind-boggling.
Monies that are mind-boggling. But I mean, some of them will tell you that compared to what people think public servants earn, it's not even close. So it brings the question again as to how sustainable this is. But I would also like to bring in a bit of twist to this. Some experts have argued that it's not about increasing the minimum wage per se, but the standard of living. We know that most times when there is a general announcement like this, that maybe government is increasing the pay for workers, public workers, there's usually a follow-up increase in the price of commodity. And then you find out that it's like we are moving in circles. You increase that a particular percentage, the price of goods in the market also go up, maybe not close to, but pretty much within that range. So the question is this: should the focus be on the increase, in minimum wage, or how to ensure that the standard of living is affordable, is low enough to ensure that somebody who earns decently well can at least live a good life?
You have to marry both. The standard of living will make no sense if the purchasing power of workers is low.
What determines the purchasing power actually?
So there are lots of economic indices. Mm-hmm. For example, the productivity of that nation, what you earn, what is it that it can buy, will be determined by how the value of your currency, how much you earn as a country. I mean, some of these dynamics are not static; they change with time. What I am more concerned about is that for you to earn legitimately, and for you to have, to increase the costs, the salaries of workers, you must understand that the entire workforce of Nigeria is less than 5% of the population. So if you were to increase the workers' salaries and inflation begins to hit hard, because everything will add up and people will begin to want to pay more or want to charge more for things, the little segment, that small segment of 5%, will now impact the overall segment. Now, who increase the salaries of private workers, people who do not earn from government? So you have to scale up and be sure that you are not doing things to harm the economy. Just merely increasing the salaries doesn't really impact much, except if the human development indices, the quality of life, the cost of living is brought to the barest minimum.
All right, Abdulateef, let me also ask you, do you think the approach of the NLC in actually fighting, for the cause of the masses in terms of the protest we've seen, demands on the minimum wage, meetings with the federal government, do you think the NLC, of course, combined labor, do you think they are going about these issues the right way? And do you see them achieving any significant result?
The actions of the labor, for me, I support it because, you see, without the labor unions making some noise and creating awareness, the government may continue to sit down, without addressing the issues. I mean, government itself did say that it was going to work on the minimum wage, but why is it taking this long? You cannot promise something and the cost of living, the cost of commodities have gone high, and then you have not been able to adjust salaries to measure up with the current cost of living. So yes, the labor union may not be impacting as much as Nigerians expect, but without the labor unions making this noise or making the necessary engagement with the government may just think, well, all is well. I mean, even there are people within government that continue to say that it's not all bad after all, but people die every day because they are unable to earn enough to live, even to feed themselves 1 square meal per day.
I mean, interesting times you say in Nigeria. But Abdulateef, thank you so much for joining me on the conversation today. And of course, we appreciate your opinion.
Thank you.
At this point, we will go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be bringing you a live update from the ongoing wake-up of the late CEO of Access Bank, talking about Herbert Wigwe, his wife and son. Stay with us. And of course, it's been a week of funeral rites for Herbert Wigwe, his wife and son, who tragically lost their life in an helicopter crash in the U.S. Well, today happens to be the wake-up, and News Central has its correspondent in Rivers State talking about Ni Omoni. Ni, thank you for joining me on the conversation.
Thank you for having me, Dapo.
All right. So currently you are in Isokpo local government area of Rivers State. Can you bring us up to speed as regards what has transpired and what is happening at the moment?
Well, I can tell you this for sure. As the funeral service week begins to round off, it's getting more heartfelt. I'm talking about what people now feel, because his body, the body of Wigwe family, arrived earlier today at the Query local government. And now people can now see that there's really no time to be talking so much. After today, the next service that we'll hold is tomorrow and Sunday, which is final. And very soon, people might not even be talking about this man the way they're talking about him so much. Same goes for the family of the wife and, of course, the son. We are right here at St. Peter's School Field, Ikwere local government, Isiokpo, Rivers State. And I wish I could show you what exactly is going on in there, but let's start from here. As you can see just behind me, locals, international, people from all around are just getting screened and trying to make way into this center. Right now, we don't have access to the center anymore because they are doing a security sweep, and of course, everyone has been asked to step out. But when you come in, as you can see, some people, and most people, I would say, in their black attire, they walk down this lane, which starts from in loving memory of all the 3 that were lost in that ill-fated helicopter crash. And of course, here behind me is the walkway to the center. This walkway is adorned with various scriptures of the Bible that speaks and talk about the situation of what people feel right now that can probably give them comfort, or even that of the family. I will start from this year, which says, the memory of the righteous will be a blessing. And this relates so much, and that's taken from the Holy Books, Proverbs 10, verse 7. And that relates so much to the legacies Herbert Wigwe had laid down and has lived for over the years. And there are various other Bible scriptures and inscriptions just along this walkway. But I can tell you something for a fact, from what we can see and what we can feel from the people, it's getting deeper. They're now feeling it deeper.
I mean, it's really sad and a tragic one, but what are locals saying about the late Herbert and his family?
Too much wonderful things. You know, at some point, I was wondering if they were not actually sugarcoating some of the things they say. But yeah, we can say for a fact that that is a man, he is, not from my own side, but from the testimonies of what we've heard from Monday when this funeral service started in Lagos and now in Port Harcourt. There have always been good things said about him. In fact, one of the locals we spoke to said he changed his life forever. He has not met him face to face. He has not spoken with him face to face. He had not even had any conversation with him whatsoever. But that watching that man grow from who he was as a young boy to who he is now alone is an inspiration for him as a young person who is aspiring to make a name for himself, especially in the financial sector. That was what that local said. So, and that goes a lot for all other people. At this current field where we are, which is a St. Peter's School field, just down the road from that gate, you're looking just far behind me, to the road is where the Wigwe University is situated. Now, we couldn't get entrance to that place because it has been cut off. People are only allowed to visit this school here. But we've all heard good things about the man called Herbert Wigwe.
All right, Nee, thank you so much for the update. We will keep in touch.